The different thing about Zeus is that he's our final boss. And so more care and more concern needs to go into that because it's going to be what the player remembers when they turn off the game, hoping that they finished it. So it needs to be very epic, very big, big moments, not really mechanic driven, but something where you finish it and you're like, oh, I need to tell my friend this, like, oh, did you play him this way, that type of thing.
Not only is he the sort of final boss, but he's also the kind of the main antagonist, that if we do a third game, he will kind of stretch into the third.
He was such an iconic figure that to ground Kratos back into Greek mythology, we wanted to make sure that when people looked at him, they knew right away that it was Zeus. They didn't have to guess, they didn't, so it was pretty easy coming up with Zeus.
I definitely didn't want to stray too far from where I think the literature and everybody's sort of traditional perception of where Zeus is at.
Character artist gets the concept art from that department and just sculpts it in polygons and then paints on a texture and tries to make sure that it looks like what the intention was on the part of the producers and the concept artists. We're between concept art and animation in the pipeline. After we're done with it, we end up handing it off to the animators and make sure that it's all correct for what they need and, that he bends correctly and that he moves the way he's supposed to.
We wanted to make it epic in the sense that Kratos is small and Zeus is very big. But we knew we had some problems with that, so we kind of played with scale, bringing Zeus down, making Zeus back to big.
When we started modeling and texturing Zeus, we didn't know that he was going to be a normal-sized guy and then a giant-sized guy. So that ended up adding a little bit of work to the process to make sure that he held up resolution-wise.
The fun part is painting the texture on and putting all the wrinkles and stuff in there.
So we have two different models, a big one and a small one. And trying to get the big one to end up in the small space where the player doesn't realize that, they've kind of been tricked that now we're loading up the small one or now we're loading up the big one. So we had to play with various ideas of, we scale him up kind of off camera, but you kind of allude to it that, he's growing. Then when we cut back, you see him, you're like, oh, that happened. So here we have a different model of Zeus, the big one. And then right there, we swap to the small one. And right here, we bring the small one back in.
So using a camera POV change to suggest the...
Right, we have the camera kind of emulate his eyes looking down and shrinking and all that. We didn't want to give him straight melee attacks, so sort of like how the Colossus is like punching at Kratos. We wanted to keep him more magical. So the things that we're working on are attacks that keep his godlike appearance without getting his hands dirty.
They have so much history, and that history kind of unfolds in the horrible things that they do to each other in this fight. So it's a sort of an interesting tying together of all these different elements and really bringing together the actual mythology of all of these gods being completely insecure because of the kind of cyclical nature of overthrowing each other.
The thing that you're going to hopefully remember about Zeus will be not only was the fight very fun, but the fight came to a finale where you're like, oh, now I see what they were doing and where they're going, and I can't wait for the next one.